today I would like to talk to you a little bit about using subtractive EQ, especially using low pass and high pass filtering on individual instrument tracks to really help you clean up your mix and allow room for other instruments. And if you can imagine, kind of allowing a spectrum of sound to each instrument will fill a gap in the spectrum of sound. So with that being said, let's dive into it. So one of the things that I like to use as a reference, as a guide here, is this chart that's created by independentrecording.net. And what it is an interactive frequency map of what instruments create what frequencies. So for instance, you can see from the top, a male and female vocal are definitely different as far as the frequency range. A male is a wider spectrum while the female is a higher spectrum or range rather. And so when you're EQing, you should keep these things in mind. Now, this is not a Bible to follow or any sort of like something that's set in stone. These are just references, and these are basically, some common guidelines as to what instruments produce what frequencies. So let's just kind of take a look through here. You see strings, woodwinds, brass, percussion, vocal. Then we have different characteristics such as chest, thump, rumble, ground, bottom, boom, punch, warmth, middle, C, fullness, mud, honk, whack, tinny, crunchy, edge, etc., etc. You get the picture. And so these are often used to describe sort of what, you're trying to get more out of the EQing. You want more bottom end, you want more whack, you want more crunch, you want more edge, you want more definition, etc. Also, you can see in the keyboard the different octaves that it can create, or that each instrument will create, rather. You can again use this as a good as a reference to help you kind of decide what instruments should be subtracted and what frequencies should be cut from those instruments, rather. So let's pull up one of our sessions. I'm using Logic Pro X in this example. You can use whatever DAW you'd like, but this is my choice, and this is what I'm using. Now, I've also set up some drums, some sample drums in this session, just to kind of, like a 16-bar loop, just to show you what files I want to work with here. I've put that into a track stack using Logic's track stack function, which is amazing for things like this to really clean up your edit windows and your mix windows. So with that being said, I've also set a VU meter, Klinghelm VU meter on every track to kind of get its balance and the levels correct. And I've also set up an EQ on every track. And I've already gone ahead before this tutorial and created some high pass, low pass filtering on each instrument minus the toms. I didn't do anything with the toms. So I did basically the kick, the snare, hi-hat, and overhead, room. And those are the only few that I did. So I didn't necessarily follow verbatim what this suggested, this interactive graph suggested, but what I did is I just kind of used my ears. And the thing I love about the Pro Q2 EQ is from FabFilter is that you can go ahead and I'll open up the kick drum, which I already have one on there. So we'll look at that quick. So what's beautiful about the kick drum, about this FabFilter Pro Q2 EQ, is that there's this little icon here with a set of headphones that allows you to click on that and isolate just this node or the set of frequencies that you're shifting. And so it's really easy to dive in or to cut right into which frequencies you're listening for and trying to either remove or boost or whatever. But in this case, we're subtractive EQing. So as you can see, I made significant cuts. and they're at pretty steep slopes. This is at a 96 dB per octave slope on a low cut filter. So essentially what it's saying is I've cut away all the frequencies all the way up to 30 hertz, and this is the kick drum. So let's go ahead and just listen to the full mix. What I'm going to do first, though, is I'm going to disable my edits, my EQs. So I'm going to open up this again. I'm going to select all of them, and I'm just going to disable the fab filter because we don't need it in this case. We want to start fresh. So everything's disabled. This is no longer that, and so it'll sound pretty flat, pretty default, rather, I should say, not flat. It's definitely not flat. This is basically what the drums sound like without any effects. Okay, let's have a listen. Okay, so they sound great. It's really not like I have to, change anything, or I don't, nothing sounds out of tune, out of whack. Nothing sounds like I need to, excuse me, drastically change anything. But this is just the drums. I haven't added any guitars, any vocals, any bass, any synthesizers, any other organs, anything else. And if we look at our frequency chart again, you'll notice like the pipe organ takes up like a majority of the frequency spectrum, so the frequency range. So, which is quite interesting. If I was to add a pipe organ, how do you fit that into the mix without masking like some of the other areas in some of the other instruments? So what we want, the goal of all of this is to kind of shape and place different instruments in respective frequencies and frequency ranges, and so we don't mask each other and we complement each other, each track, instead of masking and hiding. So what I typically like to do, and this is again my own workflow, I like to go ahead and kind of just cut things that don't really make sense. And so we could look at, excuse me again, we could look at this kick drum, for example, and as you can see, below 50 hertz, there's really not much information. If you go down to 50 hertz, okay, there's in the sub-bass frequencies. Below 50 hertz, it looks like the kick drum doesn't really do much. It's saying basically from 50 hertz to 100 hertz, that creates the bottom and the punch, and 100 hertz to 250 hertz, that's the fullness of the kick drum, and the attack is around 3 kilohertz to 5 kilohertz, okay? And it doesn't suggest that there's much going on below or higher than 60 hertz, 50 hertz rather, to what is this up to? This is around 8 kilohertz. So we don't really need to do much beyond that. So we can cut away a lot of those frequencies. Now, you don't just want to just hard code those numbers into your EQ filters. What you want to do is you want to listen, of course. And so again, we'll go back to our mix. And this is the beauty of the Fab Filter Pro Q2, is that you can hear the frequencies that you're messing with and you're manipulating. So let's just open that up and let's just solo the kick and take a listen. Whoop, I gotta undo all of that. Let's do this. And we'll solo the kick. Okay, now let's have a listen to just the kick. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the Pro Q because I've already made adjustments. So let's hear it without that. So we'll just A/B this. Oh, whoops. Shut that off. Okay, this is what it sounds like before my edits. It sounds okay. Let's turn on my edits. Okay, you can already hear, definitely with the top end. We'll do that. Let's focus on the bottom end. So here's what I was talking about now. If I hold this icon, this little headphone icon with this going on, you can hear the frequencies. Now let me move that around. Okay, you won't hear anything there. It's just too low. Okay, so you're hearing basically all the information of the kick drum. Now, there's some sub in here. You might need to use headphones or really good monitors to hear this right now, but 37, around 30 hertz, 30 to 40 hertz, there's some boomy sub stuff going on here. And let's just stop this again. And let's just look at our chart again. So kick. So if you could see, the frequencies between 0 hertz and around 60 hertz is basically the sub-bass frequencies. Okay, so you're gonna hear like really, really low end stuff in that one. So the kick drum starts, what they were saying in that chart, is the kick drum starts around 50 hertz. So let's go listen to what 50 hertz is like. Let's play again. Starting to sound like a kick drum. So if that's the case, let's just cut it at 50 hertz. Stop that. Let's just cut it at 50 hertz. And again, this isn't something that we should always follow. This because it says 50 hertz here doesn't mean that there's no frequencies that follow after that and below. But there are. It's just that in this case we don't really need them. So let's just for this tutorial's sake, let's just follow along with this graph. Let's cut off also, this goes down to, let's bring this all the way down, all the way down, all the way down, all the way down, around 8K. Was that right? 8K. Kick. I wish it would show over here. Does it show 50? No. All right, so we'll just say here. So around 8K, we'll cut off 8K as well. Everything beyond 8K in this one. So let's just play this again and listen. Okay, so we'll just call that 8K. Whoop, not 800, 8,000. 1, 2, 3. All right. So according to that chart, this is basically the frequencies that the kick drum is capable of producing. Everything else outside of these is useless information to us. We don't need it. Now, again, this is not the only way of doing this. And sometimes you do this for context of your music. You don't really need to do this because, I said so or anyone else said so. This is just something I like to do again. This is part of my workflow to clean up a mix, to allow room for other instruments to sort of fit. Every mix is sort of like a puzzle. They fit different ways. I've never really done exactly the same in any mix on every song continuously. It's always a new palette, if you will, and it's always a new challenge. So keep that in mind, please. All right, so let's go ahead and listen to the snare now. Do the same thing with the snare. Close this out. Actually, let me open that one. Okay. And then let's just do this. Open the snare. Okay. All right, so the same thing I've done with the snare. I'm going to zero this out, and we're going to start over on all these because I just want to show you. It's going to be easier this way. But I'll go ahead and create the low pass filter, or high pass filter rather. Low cut equals high pass. So there you go. Okay, so let's just play again and dial in our sound. Let's just reference really quick to what they say we should have. So if it's 100 hertz is where the snare starts and it ends at around 12 kilohertz. So let's listen to that. Let's find it. So 100 hertz. That's interesting. Let's hear it. Let's hear what it sounds like. I can see it already. You can see that that's big bump. I mean, technically, I would go above 100 hertz. You can see it plain as day, but we'll follow along in this chart. So 100 hertz. Okay. And for instance, for this one, I mean, let's just do the same thing. We'll make that 96 decibels per octave on a low pass filter. And we will listen again. And what it said there, I think it was 12,000 hertz. So 12K. Let's hear. And I'm starting to hear it right at 12K. So let's just do that. 12K, so everything else is useless to us. Is this making sense? All right, good. Let's move on. Let's do the hi-hat. Okay, so we'll zero this one out. What does the hi-hat say? The chart on the hi-hat is hi-hat, cymbals, which technically, yeah, sure, but I'm pretty sure we could do something else. But in this case, interesting. This one has low fundamentals. You see the low fundamentals is the red border around the black box, and then it starts with the fundamental frequency, which is all red, and then it goes to the harmonics. So this instrument is quite interesting. It looks like around 180 hertz is the starting point, and the ending point here is around 18 kilohertz or 16 kilohertz. So let's try that. So we said 180. Let's look at 180. So we'll just go here, same thing, 96. Again, you don't have to use 96 decibels per octave. I'm just showing you as an extreme for this tutorial that it's easier to kind of cut off at a brick wall level each frequency this way and to isolate them. And again, once I start adding more tracks, guitar tracks, guitars, bass, synthesizers, vocals, etc., I'm gonna most likely shift some of these parameters around, and I'm gonna, it's ultimately you're shaping the mix throughout the mix. That's the concept here, okay? All right, so let's do this. Let's hit play on the hi-hat, solo it out, and take a listen. We said 180 hertz. Let's see. See, 100 and... Okay, I definitely hear it on 180, but it's small. I would almost argue we could cut away. Definitely not that. Well, again, let's stick with 180. Okay, and then over here we said, I think it was 18,000 hertz. My hearing's kind of bad. I'm starting to hear it right around here. Okay. $1,800. It is. All right. Moving on. Let's say the overheads now. We're not going to touch the other ones here. We're just going to whiz through this real quick now. All right, so that's the overheads. Click on this one and switch to the overheads. Let's go back to default. And so, okay, here's a good example. The overheads are technically cymbals, right? It's there's not anything on here that says overheads, I don't believe. No, there is not. And again, this is just a reference point. In this case, we could use our ears. We could use our visual tools we have, which FabFilter Pro Q2 EQ has, the ability to see the spectrum analysis of this overhead. But I think what we're going to do is just kind of stick to, this chart. And so this chart is, again, for cymbals, which is what we're talking about here, is around 200 kilohertz. Actually, I take that back. Let's not do it that way. Let's use our ears. Always use your ears. Okay, so let's do the same. Let's do 96 kilohertz. Solo that. This is just the overheads now. I don't hear anything. We're going to go until we hear stuff. Some subby stuff right there. I'm going to say 50K. Or 50 hertz, I mean. Let's just do that. 50 hertz. We'll do the same over here. I'm not going to cut too much off. We'll see what we can get. Okay, I'm hearing stuff around 1400. Let's keep it there. All right, moving on to the room, solo it out, do the same thing. Put this back to default, and we'll start over. 96 decibels per octave. Go ahead and play it. Some sub. I'm going to say the same thing. We're going to say 50 hertz. Oh, 50 hertz. 50 hertz, and we'll do the top end again. About the same. Just keep them the same. All right. So there you go. That's the that is the drums with a subtractive EQing technique that I typically use using high pass and low pass filtering, and using the Pro Q2 EQ listening or preview method. Again, this could work on any EQ, any DAW, any sort of instrument. It doesn't really matter. But this is the technique and the workflow that I use. So let's just hear the before and after now. Let's just disable all of these. Go back here and say like this. Okay, we'll disable those. Let's hear the before and after. That's before. There's the after. Before. And then here's the after. I don't know, guys. I heard a big difference. All right, so now I guess it's up to you guys to make your beautiful mixes. Anyways, thanks again for watching. This is Eric again with howtorecordmusic.com, and you've been watching a tutorial on how to use subtractive EQing with low pass and high pass filtering on individual tracks. I hope you found this useful. Please leave some comments, some feedback, and below the video, and I'll also link some resources such as this this frequency chart. I'll put this link in the description, and link out anything else. And also stay tuned for a blog post around this same topic. I plan on putting something together for myself as a reference for you to learn new tricks, and also to get some feedback from you, and hopefully we all can make beautiful music together. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.